Welcome back to From the Gun podcast. Your hosts Tim and Jared discuss the different aspects of the sport we've all come to love, football.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
What kind of mythical powers does the Sun Devil have? We gotta consider that.
His attitude's positive. He thinks he could take on hell with a squirt gun. We tried to recruit bigger, better players to come play for us, but they went to good schools.
Yo. I like creating podcasts, you like listening to podcasts, and the best way to do that through is Anchor. 1, it is free. 2, when you create a podcast, Anchor will distribute your podcast to all the major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. 3, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. To do all this, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor.fm. ANCHOR.FM to get started. Welcome back to From the Gun. We are joined here with the most esteemed college football expert, Tim, in an undisclosed location in Nebraska.
Undisclosed,
baby. And week 3 was another very interesting week of college football. Kind of like week 2. You had a lot of close games from big dogs. You had some very close games in general. And I don't know about you, Tim, but this year is giving me a little bit of vibes of 2007. And if just for reference, if you guys didn't know, in 2007, that was Pat White, West Virginia. They were a top 5 team. Kansas was a top 5 team. Missouri was a top 5 team. Because just for reference, the Big 12 championship game was between Oklahoma and Missouri, but Kansas was a 12-1 team. West Virginia lost late in the year to Pitt, if I remember correctly. That kicked them out because if Kansas beat Missouri, I believe the national championship game would have been between West Virginia and Kansas. And then Kansas lost to Missouri. If Missouri beats Oklahoma that year, Missouri would have been in the national championship game. They lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game. This was also a 10th rated Boston College team led by Matt Ryan. Ohio State won the Big 10, shocker. But yeah, this was a USC's number 3 in the country. Tennessee's number 12. Tennessee's a good team. So it's to me this year is shaping up like 2007 in the sense of you're going to have a lot of really good teams, but there's not one team that is way better than the other.
Yeah, I was going to say you hit the nail on the head with what I was going to say to open up is by the end of the season, there's going to be probably, I don't know, you'd think by the looks of it right now, 6 or 7 like really good teams that also could all probably beat each other.
Agreed.
Because even
the playoffs will be actually interesting this year.
Yeah, because Alabama's good, but Alabama was up 21-3 on the road at Florida, and if Florida doesn't miss an extra point in the first half or the second, in the third quarter, Florida missed an extra point, which meant they had to go for 2 to tie at the end of the game. If Florida makes that extra point, then they would have tied the game and forced overtime. Alabama just fell apart in the second half of that game. Night and day difference. So. Yeah. And Florida can't throw.
No.
Yeah,
for all the criticisms we have given Emory Jones, Tim, he played very well, besides one pass.
The interception was really bad, but outside of that, he had a really, really great game.
So also in 2007, LSU won the national championship, and they were a 2-loss team. So.
Yeah, because they lost to Darren McFadden's Arkansas team at the end of the year. Not the last game, but it was near the end of the season.
So basically, anyone has a shot still. They lost to Kentucky October 13th, and then they lost to Arkansas November 23rd at the end of the year in 3 overtime. And they ended up winning the national title. If your team still has 1 loss, you still have a shot this year because you're going to get a lot of upsets for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, there's no lag of opportunity. Especially because if anybody watched the Clemson-Georgia Tech game, and you saw Clemson defending 4th and goal to prevent Georgia Tech from potentially tying the game and then hanging on to win by 6. Ooh,
Or I will say this tip: Notre Dame got another scare. 3 straight weeks of, this game's quite interesting.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Oklahoma struggling at home versus Nebraska Cornhuskers.
I'll give you my thought on the Notre Dame game real quick. They missed a field goal. A receiver dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone, like he was alone, and it hit his chest, like on his shoulder pads, like right on his chest, and he dropped it in the end zone. And then Cone overthrew a receiver wide open deep. Like, dude was alone, beat his defender. He just gets it to him. He takes off. Like, they left 17 points on the table, which they've done it. They've left points on the field in all 3 of their games this year. And so if they keep doing that, they're going to lose to Cincinnati, and they're going to lose to at least one other team.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I don't know about Wisconsin. They're kind of I don't believe in Wisconsin.
We'll find out about Wisconsin this week.
Yeah.
Also, Wisconsin. In the next 4 weeks, Tim, Notre Dame, obviously this week. Next week, Michigan at home, Notre Dame at home. Illinois on the road, fine. But then they play Army at home. That can easily be 1-3. Because Army's a very good team who is currently undefeated.
So we'll find out about Wisconsin. Wisconsin and Notre Dame are probably the 2 teams you'll find out the most about in the next month. Because Wisconsin has that, and then Notre Dame, their next 5 is Wisconsin this Saturday, then Cincinnati, then they're at Virginia Tech, then they have USC, and then North Carolina. And then they finish with Navy at Virginia, Georgia Tech at home, then at Stanford. It's like they have that stretch run of 5 in the middle of their schedule that's easily the toughest part. And you will learn everything you need to know about them in that month.
Yeah, but it's so weird though, because you don't know much. You don't know who Wisconsin is yet. You don't know who Virginia Tech is yet. You don't really.
Virginia Tech looked amazing, and then they looked terrible.
Yeah.
USC has looked very meh, but then when Jackson Dart went in on Saturday, they looked unstoppable. He was amazing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely balled out.
North Carolina's the same way. They played like garbage against Virginia Tech, and then Sam Howell's been amazing since then. Like, there's no team that's been consistently great so far this season.
Maybe Georgia.
I say maybe Georgia or Oregon, because Fresno State's really good.
Or hear me out, Michigan State.
Oh, yeah, Michigan State. Michigan State's been consistently great. They've been annihilating people.
Yeah, with all that being said, you just want to get into our week 3 picks. Oh, we also, so my sister came home on Friday.
Yeah.
So she didn't get to pick the UCF game, but I got her picks without scores, but I got her picks for the rest of the 9 games. Okay. So that could be like our first
our first guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, celebrity guest, yeah.
Yep.
So, where do you want to start to?
Which would start with Nebraska, Oklahoma. So, I mean, we both picked Oklahoma to win. You had them by 12. I had them by 28.
Yeah, I had a feeling it would be close.
I don't think either of us expected what we got. I don't think anybody expected what we got. But I've struggled to think of words to describe it where I can talk about it in an unbiased way, given that I like Nebraska. Because I don't want to sound like an irrational Nebraska fan, because that's like my worst fear, is sounding like that, because that's what I'm not. But like, this is one of those games where if you're an Oklahoma fan, yeah, you won, but
holy shit, there's a lot of things to look at.
Yeah, it's like you don't feel nearly as good about winning this game as Nebraska does about losing by a touchdown, having the ball with a chance to tie it. Like, if that makes sense. Because I think everybody thought this would be a 2-touchdown game at least. 22.5 for the spread was a little much.
I did not hear one person, national analyst or broadcaster, that thought Nebraska would be within 3 touchdowns.
And
everyone thought we were just getting blown out the water.
Given the history of when this game's been played, when Oklahoma has amazing teams, that's in this century, that's fair. I mean, you remember the 2008 Sam Bradford team?
No,
they beat Nebraska 62-28, 62-24 in Norman. It was an annihilation. But this was the best game Nebraska's played since Scott Frost has been there, since they lost by 2 points at Ohio State in his first season.
That is the first thing. That's what I said to my dad. I was like, this is the best all-around performance I've seen Nebraska put in for a very long time.
And the thing that kept Nebraska in the game was the defense. Nebraska's defense acquitted themselves very well in this game because it's easy to say, oh, Nebraska has bad defense because you look at their stats from last season. It's hard to have a good defense when you're on the field for 35 minutes or 40 minutes of the game because you're going to get tired and people are going to score on you. That's just the way it's going to go. You're going to give up yards and you're going to give up points because you're out there for 2/3 of the game. Nebraska's defense made Oklahoma work for all the points they got. Nebraska's offense actually sustained drives, even though, and this is an amazing thing, and I'm not sure I'd ever seen this in a game before. Every single offensive lineman for Nebraska got called for a false start.
You had 4 on the first drive?
Yeah, 4 on the but it was a different guy every time. It was not 4 different offensive linemen got called for a false start on the opening drive, and then the right guard got called for a false start later. All 5 offensive linemen got called for false starts. Nebraska had something, 7 or 8 penalties in the first half.
If I'm not mistaken, they had 8 total. I believe they had 6 in the first half.
It was
in
insane.
the first quarter or something like that.
It was insane. Which it's impressive that they even got a field goal on the first drive because with the percentage chances that you score when you get called for even 2 false starts on a drive are ridiculously low. And they got called for 4 false starts on 1 drive, and they still got points out of it. But no, Nebraska's defense played an amazing game. They played an amazing game. Special teams is just the kicker here again, but that's been the Achilles heel for Nebraska since forever.
Well, the weird thing about special teams, it wasn't it's not necessarily always been the kicker. It has been a new thing every time, and there has never been a time where Nebraska has put them all together. Because for a while,
That's true.
We didn't have a good punter, but we had a good kicker that made field goals out the wazoo. Then we struggled. We were decent on punting. Then we struggled on returning. And we've had a lot of problems with returning. And the field goal kicking was good. Now the field goal kicking's bad. Nebraska's punter versus Oklahoma had 2 50-yard punts. So then that aspect was good. Field goal kicking was bad. But then punt return was good because there was just no mistakes. So there hasn't been one time in the last 2 years where they have put good punting, good field goal kicking, and good return game in the same game. They haven't combined all those aspects.
Yeah, they have yet to be complete. Which, to talk about Oklahoma, I thought it was curious. Nebraska dropped into coverage a lot, and they took away the deep throws, and they made Oklahoma work for it through the air, which I thought it was curious that Oklahoma kept passing so much. Because every time Oklahoma ran, their scoring drive in the second half, when they scored their last touchdown to get to 23, they got down the field by running it. They didn't throw their way down the field. They just went ground and pound the whole way, and they just slowly, methodically worked their way down there. But on all their other drives, except for their opening drive, they seemed very committed to trying to pass through the Nebraska defense, and Nebraska's defense dropped so many into coverage that just things were not there. And Spencer Rattler had a good game. He didn't have a great game, but I would argue that if you're an Oklahoma fan, maybe the most alarming thing is his receivers saved him on 2 throws that would have been interceptions if his receivers did not become great defensive backs.
Probably should have been interceptions, more or less.
Because that's 2 picks. One of them on their opening drive, another one late in the second half, end of the third quarter, start of the fourth, somewhere in there. But this was one of those games for Rattler where he was decent, but he made it looked like the beginning of last season. He made a couple decisions where you think, man, why'd you do that? Because the one at the very beginning of the game was a ball that it looked like he meant to throw it out of bounds. He just lobbed it up in the general direction of the sideline, but it didn't have enough on it to clear the field. And it came down inside the sideline, and it was a live ball. Where you think, it looks like you tried to throw that away. I think you tried to throw that away.
But you didn't.
But you didn't. You threw it down the field to no one in particular. Yeah, I don't know. But I again, this is Nebraska looked great. They look like a team that you wonder, how did you lose to Illinois? But that's where the Michigan State game this week for Nebraska on the road in East Lansing at Michigan State, who is just cruising right now. That'll be a big game for Nebraska because you'll see if the team that played in Norman last week shows up or if it's the team that played in Champaign in week 1. Because if the team that just played Oklahoma makes the trip to East Lansing, that's going to be a really good game. And it could be a toss-up, to be completely honest. That should be a really, really good game. But I would agree with you. There's a lot of questions about, if you're Oklahoma, you probably leave that game thinking, man, We are significantly better than a 1-touchdown win over Nebraska.
The
Or they're not. Or they're not, and they have issues.
like you hear all these people say, and granted, maybe Oklahoma's not the number 4 team in the country, but you hear people say they shouldn't even be in the top 10, or Oklahoma this, Oklahoma played bad. What if Nebraska just played good and outplayed Oklahoma? See, they seem to blame Oklahoma, but yet they don't seem to have given Nebraska credit for what they did. And you said it perfectly in the game. What did Nebraska do? They were going to limit the explosive plays Oklahoma had in the pass game. They're always going to sit 2 high safety. They're going to prevent deep balls. And they did that to extreme success. Also, the point that you made, why didn't Oklahoma keep running it? They had 3 running backs run the ball, or 2 running backs run the ball with Spencer Rattler. You had a guy Kennedy Brooks average 5.4 yards a carry. Eric Gray averaged 5.6 yards a carry. Spencer Rattler averaged 5.8 yards a carry. And yet you still try to throw the ball 34 times? To me, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand Oklahoma's playing calling at that. You were gouging Nebraska on the ground, and they were. There's no denying that. But yet they would gouge them for 8-10 yards? Oh, then let's try to throw it 4 straight plays. Lincoln Riley's game plan to me was it was weird. It was something I haven't seen because he went away from what was working and decided to try to force the pass game to work, and it just didn't. 2, going into the season, when would you have ever thought Adrian Martinez would outplay Spencer Rattler in the game? I will say this, and this is to a lot of Nebraska fans out there that are listening. I take back all my criticism of Adrian Martinez that I've had. He is the sole reason Nebraska was in this game and driving at the end of the game to tie it. There's no denying that. He played absolutely stellar. The reason he has a pick was because you went for it on 4th down, so you have to throw something up to potentially make a play. Adrian Martinez played Spencer Rattler, who is supposedly the best quarterback in college football. Statistically, so far, average yards per game, Adrian Martinez has the 2nd most in college football. So he's playing extremely well at a very high level this year. The issue, and if you watch the game, it is clear as day. I think this issue for me is bigger than special teams. Nebraska's offensive line is atrocious.
It's bad.
I should say, not the entire offensive line. 4 guys are terrible. Cam Jurgens is good.
Yeah, his second unnecessary roughness penalty, that was stupid. The first one, yeah.
Cam Jurgens, essentially, or what we call him, Beef Jerky.
Did they call him that?
That's his handle because you know what he did with NIL?
Oh, yeah. He does his own
created
jerky.
Beef Jerky.
Yeah.
Yes. So he got 2 penalties during the game for excess blocking. He absolutely destroyed his man twice and got flagged for it. The second one was a terrible call.
The first one was he didn't need to do that.
He called it. The second one, it was a screen out to the right. It was Cam Jurgens with, was it Piper or Benhart? They had Cam Jurgens roll out to the right with another lineman.
I would assume Benhart, he's the tackle.
Yeah, but then why would you have, I don't know, whatever. So you had the guy's screen to the right. You threw it. Cam Jurgens pushed his guy 30 yards downfield, and they called a penalty on him for a personal foul for excess. It was essentially excess blocking after he absolutely destroyed his man. What?
I assumed it was because on the last block the guy fell backwards and he fell down.
Yeah, but good.
When you watch it on the replay, you think, "Oh, that's a bit of a soft penalty." But
yeah, even the commentators were like, "That's not a penalty at all." But I digress. If Adrian Martinez had a clean pocket, Nebraska's gonna beat Oklahoma. Nebraska, in my opinion, outplayed Oklahoma in Norman.
Yeah. Anyway, we both get 2 points for correctly predicting an Oklahoma win.
Yes, sir.
We did not get margin. We did not get scoreline.
Oh, and also, my sister picked Oklahoma.
Oh,
So
did she get margin or score? Did she get margin or score line?
she didn't do scores. She just picked winners, which is okay. So she has 2. I have 0. Tim has 12.
Yep. Here we go. Second game. Cincinnati at Indiana. You had Cincinnati 30-27. I had Indiana 34-31. It was looking really good for me. Indiana was up 14-0, getting near halftime. Then they really crapped it away, and it was 14-10 at the half.
Yeah.
Indiana then went up. They got to 21. Cincinnati came roaring back, and they scored many, many points to win 38-24. Michael Penix Jr. threw some very bad interceptions in this game.
These I cannot help him with. The ones versus Iowa, terrible offensive line, so he was rushed. Like I'll give him leeway with it. These were just, what are you doing? Why are you throwing that ball? There's not much I need to say here. This game was boring to watch, for me at least.
Yeah, I did not watch very much of it.
It was just bad offense with decent defense. So it wasn't even like a defensive struggle between both teams where it's like 7-6. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Or it wasn't even a explosion on offense. It was just oh god, this is what you guys are doing. And Cincinnati won. Cincinnati's gonna have a tough 3 out of 4 work. Beat Indiana, Notre Dame next week. They get Temple, that should be easy, and then UCF, which it's probably gonna be easier now that Mr. Gabriel.
Yeah.
Broken clavicle. Not gonna be back for the rest of the year. So that's all I have to say for this game, Tim. It was not fun to watch.
Yeah, Indiana really letting us down.
And it does not get easier in their next 3 out of 4
No, it does
games.
not. And I'll just leave it at that. So you get 2, I lose 1 point, and then
So, just so you guys were curious, between the 2nd of October and the 23rd, they play at Penn State, Michigan State at home, Ohio State at home, and actually all of October they play at Maryland to end October. Oh, and then the following week they play at Michigan. So they have a 5-game stretch that is seriously tough.
Yeah.
And you would have to think, are they going to get to the bowl game now all of a sudden? Like, their season has took a turn for the worst.
Yeah.
And my sister did have Cincinnati, so Katie currently 4 points.
All right. Coastal Carolina Buffalo is up next.
Oh, I'm closing the gap, baby. Let's go.
Well, you're losing points on this one. You had Buffalo 24-20. I had Coastal Carolina 31-17. Coastal Carolina won 28-25.
Thought I was going to win this too.
It was 14-14, and then Coastal scored, but then Buffalo came back, and Buffalo really made them earn it.
I wish I was able to watch this game because it was a good one. But also, not much to add. Katie goes to 2. Katie had Buffalo as well.
Oh, okay.
Both teams that like to run the ball, and that's what you got. You had 212 for Coastal and 262 for Buffalo. So if you liked running football,
Grayson McCall had another good game.
Vanden Trees did terrible. 13-20 for 146. Not very vertical, is it?
No, but they didn't do that against Nebraska. They committed to the run until they had to throw it.
Yeah.
So
Kevin Marks, only 64 yards. Not a good recipe if you're Buffalo, because you need him to get at least triple digits to have success.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We'll see what Buffalo could do in the MAC, because they've had a tough stretch so far. So we'll see if they can bounce back. All right.
Okay. Up next we have Alabama at Florida.
Game a lot closer than I thought it would be.
It didn't look like it was going to be.
No, it did not. It looked like, oh shit, Bama's gonna do a classic. All right, we're just gonna keep the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, we touched on this at the very beginning, right?
We did.
Okay.
A little bit.
Alabama was up 21-3 in this game, and it's just one of those where you think, okay, well, we've seen this one before, i.e., every time they play Texas A&M. But then, you get into the second half, and it's like, oh, here comes Florida. And Florida's defense stepped it up. The thing in this game is Alabama could not move the ball on the ground.
No, and that's their opens up a lot for them.
Yeah, the only time they moved the ball effectively on the ground is the last possession of the game to ice it. Emory Jones threw a really bad interception, but that's not what ended up costing them. What cost them is the missed extra point. because then they had to go for 2 at the end of the fourth quarter.
Okay.
And that was like an all-time bad 2-point conversion call. Like, what was that play that they ran? What was that
Man.
play? They just stood there and let them tackle them.
I was just watching that and I was like, wait, that's seriously the go-to play to get 2 points
They
from
ran like a
Alabama? That's
read
what you're gonna call?
directly up the middle in a short yardage situation from the gun, but like neither Emory Jones or the running back like really took the ball.
No,
They
they
just kind of got stuck together.
not even stuck. They purposely were together. Like it didn't even look like anyone tried.
It was just so
No.
bad. It was so bad. But like you do that and you think, well, okay, then you don't deserve to get that.
Yeah. An initial thought, oh, Florida doesn't deserve that
It was
because
such a bad call.
it was such a or
Um,
maybe not a bad call. It was
It was-
terrible
Yes,
execution
it was
by the players.
poorly executed. But even then, it's like, okay, you have Florida who is really good, has obvious weaknesses. I mean, they're taking Bama down to the wire. And it's not like Bryce Young threw like 2 interceptions in this game. Bryce Young had a really good game. It's just second half Florida came out and just they were ready to go.
Just straight up beat them.
Which just makes you wonder, like, okay, what's the Alabama Ole Miss game going to be like? Because Ole Miss certainly has a better offense. They don't have as good of a defense, but they certainly can score more points than Florida.
Or what's A&M gonna look like?
Yeah, because A&M has the defense.
But doesn't have the offense.
Well, not with their starter out.
Nah, it's
Yeah,
or Arkansas. man.
Arkansas is the real wild card because they're the real wild card. You just don't know what you're gonna get from them, and they've looked awesome this year.
So far, yeah. Also, when's the last time a team's kept Alabama under 100 yards rushing?
Oof. Probably
For
not.
the whole game.
Probably
the whole
not in a long time.
Also, when's the last time Alabama committed more than 10 penalties? They had 11 versus Florida. Florida, to me, outplayed Alabama. When was the last time you had this game brought yes, Alabama won, and to me this is similar to Oklahoma, where yes they win the game, but this brings up a lot more question marks that weren't there that are there now. Alabama gave up 9.6 yards rushing, 8.3 yards rushing to 2 running backs. Emory Jones had 4.2 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. They could not stop the run. Florida had 258 yards on running the ball. Alabama always has a good front seven. Apparently they don't anymore because Florida just ran it down their throats. I don't see. And it might be because I'm too early. It's still the 3rd game of the year. But when you look at it, Tim, Alabama's big play, wide receiver John Minchie only had 42 yards. And he's supposed to be the guy this year to break it open on the outside, like they've had for the past 7 years. It doesn't seem like they have that guy as a wide receiver this year. Brian Robinson's a good running back, but he's not nearly as good as the ones they've had in the past 7 years again. Bryce Young did play well. Relatively well, considering the circumstances. But this Bama team has a lot of question marks going into teams that I think are better than Florida. I do believe Ole Miss is a better team than Florida. I do believe A&M is a better team than Florida. So if Florida can do this to Alabama and take them to the absolute brink, I think Alabama's going to have one or a couple. I think Alabama will have at least one and or maybe more losses throughout the year.
2?
Three? 2 or
3?
2 or 3.
Wow.
I just don't see it, Tim. I just simply don't see it. I think they for sure will have 2 because I think Ole Miss gets them, personally, because I think Lane Kiffin's going to want to beat Nick Saban. And Ole Miss has the best quarterback in college football this year, so far statistically. I mean, they put up 54, 61, and 43. And they have a bye week this week, and then they get Alabama. So they get 2 weeks of preparation against Alabama. Alabama doesn't get that. They have Old Southern Miss, which is, should win, but then you get Ole Miss, and then you get A&M. So that stretch right there, because you're getting 2 extremely tough teams back to back, I bet they lose one of those. And then Arkansas, like we've mentioned before, they look good, and Auburn always just gives them fits. Always, always, always. So, and they play LSU, which I mean, I wasn't gonna include that, but LSU's super athletic, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe they could keep themselves in the game. Yeah, Alabama's a little worrisome for me this year.
Okay. So we each got 2.
Yes, and Katie picked Alabama as well.
Of course you did. All right. Kent State, Iowa. This was my upset pick of the week because I thought Iowa might. This was my they just won a rivalry game. They might fall on their face next week, maybe against a team that can pass. It was close for a little bit, and then they just kind of separated, and it was just whatever. I didn't really watch much of this game. Did you?
I did. I thought Kent State had a couple of shots throughout the game that they needed to capitalize,
They kept it.
like getting first downs.
They kept it close enough for long enough where as I followed it, I thought, oh, they're not out of it.
No.
But then that turnover, they turned it over. They were like on Iowa. They were inside Iowa's 5, and did they fumble it?
Yes.
And it's just like, well, you don't stand a chance if you're doing that. So yeah, Goodson had a really good game for Iowa.
Finally, that's what they needed. That running game finally
Yeah.
picked up.
But
They
it's
got
also
two
like
picks on the ground.
you would expect them to do that against Kent State.
I would agree. But it's just a good sign because Iowa so far just hasn't
Yes,
hasn't
it does.
been able to
It
run
does
the
matter
ball.
that it happened though. So
Yeah. So now they finally did it. You get Colorado State next week for Iowa, which maybe you could build upon running it as well as you did versus Kent State. And then Maryland, who has a solid defense, I will say this, has a solid defense. They're not great, but they're good enough where they will give Iowa fits. 2, Iowa plays Penn State the following week after Maryland, so maybe there's a little we overlook Maryland to get ready for Penn State. So that could be interesting to look at. But this game, Iowa just did what Iowa does. Plays excellent defense, or what Iowa typically has done in the past. Plays excellent defense and runs the ball really well. But again, Spencer, our boy Spencer, Tim, just was okay. Was just okay. And versus better teams, he's going to have to play better. Or he's going to have to make those 3 or 4 throws that opens it up. And he has not done that this year so far. So
it's true.
I don't know if he can. We'll find out. Only 3rd game in the year. But yeah, Iowa did pull in Iowa and play good D. I mean, there's not much more there's not much more to add to that game.
Yeah. So you get 2 for that. I lose 1. I assume Katie gets 2 for that.
Yeah, she did have Iowa as well.
Okay.
My pen just went out of juice.
Are you not properly prepared?
To prevent poor performance?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really.
Man.
Oh, I also been taking off 2 points for a loss. Oh man. Oh no.
No, it's -1 for a loss.
Yeah, I know. So I got my totals up. So I think I have actually 7 instead of 6. You have 13, right? God damn it, Jared. You idiots. You had 10 going into the week.
I have gained 4 points.
2, -1, so you had 1. You had 11. You
Yeah.
got cold.
I've gained 4 points so far.
4, yep. So you have 14.
You have gained
Jesus, I need to
7.
find-
You have gained 7.
Yeah, so I'm at 7, and Katie has
Also 7.
8. No, she got Iowa. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8 -1, 7. Yeah. Okay, we're on track.
All right.
God.
Auburn at Penn State. This was the primetime game on ESPN. This was the whiteout game this year at Penn State.
It was.
It's some interesting officiating in this game. Some things that some real interesting decisions by the officiating crew that went against Penn State that kind of made you scratch your head.
Are you saying them punting on 3rd down was a mistake?
Yeah, especially when they didn't know it was 3rd down.
So anyone who doesn't know, that's just the Big Ten refs in general so far this year.
It was not a Big Ten crew.
Oh, it was Auburn. I forget because
It was-
SEC. Yeah.
It was an SEC crew.
Keep forgetting that. That's my fault. But my point still stands. Big Ten refereeing this year sucked.
Yeah, it's been very bad.
Or we can make the blanket statement: refereeing this year in general in college
Yeah,
football and
it hasn't been very good.
poor.
It hasn't
So.
been very good. No, this game is interesting. Penn State, Jahan Dotson, man,
He's good.
he's really good. And you watch a game like this, and you're like, wow, Penn State, they really need him, and he's been amazing for them this year, which is, plays a huge part in why they've been so good. Their defense showed up. I thought Auburn played pretty well.
I'd agree. I thought they played well.
Yes.
Obviously, they were close,
But when you get like the one-handed the catch Jahan Dotson made where he climbed the ladder, brought it in with his right hand to then grab it with both as he was falling directly onto his back. But he caught it. He reeled it in with his right hand at like the apex of his jump. It's like you have a guy who's making those plays for you. You're probably going to win that game.
yeah.
And
Also,
then-
got to give credit to Sean Clifford. Actually, didn't play terrible.
Clifford played a good game, and the thing that really cost Auburn is they, for the life of them, they could not cover Penn State's tight ends.
No.
Because Penn State just went tight end over the middle or tight end up the seam like 4 times this game and just burned them for huge chunk yardage.
Well, what one of the touchdowns was was it like a fake reverse or an option out to the left, and then they just snuck a tight end down the seam,
Mm-hmm.
and Auburn was nowhere near within. They had no one within 10
And
yards
then
and dumped over the middle.
Their first or second touchdown, they just did a play action, a very simple play action, and they just did a bootleg out to the right, and the tight end was just alone in the end zone. They did it from like the 4-yard line, just a little out route with the tight end, and he was just alone. Like Auburn just had no answer for Penn State's tight ends. But no, Auburn did not look.
They look pretty good.
They look good. They didn't look outmatched. So to be curious to see how they perform over the rest of the season, because they play probably the toughest schedule in the SEC.
Oh yeah, they got holy shit, Georgia. They have October 9th, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
October 16th, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
October 30th, Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
November 6th, A&M, and then November 27th, Alabama.
And it's Georgia at home, at Arkansas, Ole Miss at home, at A&M. That's 4 in a row. That's 4 in a row.
Tough.
And then
That's
they finish the season hosting Alabama. They also are at LSU in 2 weeks in a primetime game on ESPN. So the atmosphere will be bumping. Yeah, but this was for Auburn. They played Akron and is that Alabama State. Yeah, it's like, and they just annihilated both of them. So it's like you don't. This is one of those games where you're like, well, they scored 122 points in 2 games, but you don't really know anything about them. They certainly looked to be very good. Now, out of Georgia, Arkansas, Ole Miss, A&M, Alabama, is it realistic for them to win 3 out of 5? Probably not. They could.
No, yeah.
But they're probably not going to beat Georgia. Although the thing about Georgia is their defense is elite. They just don't like to score. So it's like you're never really out of it.
No, but that defense is so damn good.
Yeah, but it's just like it's just like you get a team that has like a good offense that can like really throw it and spread it out. It's like maybe you open it up, and Auburn has a good running game.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby.
Tank
probably
Bigsby's
top 2 running backs in college football.
Yeah.
3.
So you think if Auburn, if Bo Nix has a good game through the air, if they can get anything going to the outside, spread the Georgia defense out, maybe they can run it a little bit too.
I think their best shots are at Arkansas and at A&M. Because Arkansas, question mark, or granted, like, how good really is Arkansas? Because they beat Texas, they handled Texas, but they've also only played Georgia Southern and Rice. And Rice is terrible, 0-3, if I'm not mistaken. And Georgia Southern's 0-3, 1-2. So, and they've only barely beat Gardner-Webb. So the teams they have played aren't necessarily the best. A&M, let's not forget, seriously struggled with Colorado last week. Like 10-7, and this is a Colorado team that is bad. Minnesota blanked Colorado 30-0.
Yeah.
So how good is
A&M? And that's Minnesota without Mo Ibrahim.
Yeah. So yeah, their best player's gone, and they still beat you 30-0.
Mm-hmm.
So where's A&M at? I don't know, but I think you could potentially get those. And then again, the Iron Bowl. You just never know.
You never know.
Auburn's never out because guess what? It's a rivalry game, Tim, and you know what you do in rivalry games? You throw everything
Out the window.
Goddamn window.
Everything out the window.
So, but again, I'm not saying they're gonna win those. I'm just saying they potentially, if out of those 5 games, those would probably, in my eyes, be the 2 that they compete with and potentially sneak it. But they got a tough road, probably one of the toughest schedules, if not the toughest, remaining in college football.
Definitely.
So,
definitely.
but they look pretty good versus Penn State, who's looking like the best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So we each take 2 points for that. We each almost got margin. You were 2. You had 28-18. I had 24-20. So I was 4 points for Penn State away, and you were 2 points for Auburn away from getting margin and scoreline.
yes, sir.
But we each take 2 points for that.
So I got 9. You have 15. No, you have 16. Sorry. Katie also had Penn State, so she got 9.
Probably not going to say much about the next 2 games. I don't know how much there is to say. Next we have Tulane against Ole Miss, which you had Ole Miss 48-40. I had Ole Miss 51-48. We were both under on the total for Ole Miss. They scored 61. They won 61-20 when Tulane's offense did not show up for this one.
I thought it would be closer, but it's hard to compete when Ole Miss had 707 yards on offense.
Yeah, they had 372 rushing yards and 335 passing yards.
Yeah, so kind of explains it for itself.
Yeah.
Ole Miss.
Tulane punted 8 times. So, yeah. And Tulane also turned it over twice. No, I'm sorry. They turned it over once.
They did not look nearly as good as they did versus Oklahoma. So.
No, which is a bummer because they wore their throwback jerseys for this game and they looked awesome.
They did.
Tulane easily has, just like as a cumulative effort between like all of their jerseys, they easily have the best jerseys.
Yes, and I think that's the 4th straight podcast we mentioned it, but
it's gonna come up every time. Every time we talk about Tulane, it's gonna come up how sweet their jerseys are. Because they wear a bunch of different alternates like all the time, and they all look good.
Yeah, their color scheme is on fleek, as the kids would say.
Interesting thing for this game though, Ole Miss had that many. They had 707 total yards. Tulane had 305. Ole Miss only had the ball for 4.5 more minutes.
They did not score in the 4th quarter, so they put up 61 and 3 quarters.
61 points in 3 quarters.
Yeah. Wow.
And they shut out Tulane in the second half. It was 40-21 at halftime, and it was 61-21 after the 3rd. Ole Miss, man. Matt Corral, probably the Heisman frontrunner.
He can throw.
He's making us look really smart for talking about him.
He's
in
looking
our previews because, man, that dude can sling it, and he can run.
Yeah, he's good.
But he can. The thing about him is he's the kind of guy that you have to make sure you fully. You need to watch him as often as you can, so that you can fully appreciate him for the player he is. Because you quarterbacks like him come around, so they're few and far between. He is fearless. He will throw it anywhere. But it's the combination of, I will try to make any pass, but it's because I can make every pass. Touch passes, on a line, 60-yard bomb, 5-yard pass that's actually like a 35-yard pass because he's throwing it to the strong side of the field. Like anything. He can do it all. And they just let him chuck it all over the yard. They don't care if they turn it over. Like, that's the great thing. They do not care if they throw interceptions. They just keep doing it. They will just keep throwing. They are easily the most exciting team to watch, by far.
I just think it's hilarious. We both agreed going into it. Oh, we're not going to talk about this a lot. And then we have a 5-minute segment on Matt Corral.
This is just, I'll say it now so I don't have to say it again. Like, if you don't watch Ole Miss play, watch them play. They are easily the most exciting team in college football to watch. But they do the exciting stuff. They run a great offense, and they score 1 million points.
And their defense is getting better this year. So
it is getting better. We'll find out when they play Alabama. But no, we each pick up 2.
Oh, man. Yes, we do. You have 16. I have 9. Katie has 9 as well.
Moving on, we have Arizona State BYU. Did you watch this game at all?
No.
Okay, neither did I.
I got the highlights, but
Okay, I also watched the highlights. Actually, I'll ask that question. The question I was about to ask, I'll ask it after we talk about the Fresno State game.
Herm Edwards getting fired.
I was going to ask
Not
that, but there's Arizona State. A lot of hype going into the season. Again, what happens?
Tell me your opinions on Arizona State.
What
You have
do
bad
they
blood.
do? What do they do every year? They lose to teams that they should beat.
Also, they had
Man.
16 penalties in this game.
Who saw it coming? Who saw it coming? Certainly not us.
We both did have BYU, so
Certainly
we
not
kinda
us.
did.
No, credit to BYU for sustaining the level of success so far that they had last year, carrying it over into this year, losing their quarterback. BYU is 3-0, and all 3 victories are against Power 5 teams. All 3 victories are against Pac-12 teams. The only thing BYU doesn't really do is they don't score a lot of points.
Can we make a petition to like this year only have BYU partake in the Pac-12 championship?
Yeah.
They're 3-0.
That's the thing. They're 3-0, and they play 2 more Pac-12 teams this year.
Yeah, so they've almost had a full conference.
They're
play.
at Washington State, and then they finish the season at USC, which could actually end up being a really good game.
Yeah.
They also play Boise State and Virginia. Yeah, BYU has a chance to go 5-0 against the Pac-12 this year and just dominate them. But anyway, we both pick up 2 points for that because we're aware that Arizona State's not what people think they are. Credit to us again.
It's all right. We're geniuses. So Katie has 11. She picked BYU as well. I have 11. You have 18.
Okay. Gonna save Fresno State for last because I feel like we're gonna talk about that one. Then UCF Louisville, which was the Friday night game, if I'm not mistaken.
It was.
So the end of this game was just so it was 35-35. UCF is driving down the field to win. Or no, sorry. Louisville was driving down the field to win. Did the ball get tipped and UCF intercepted it, or was it just a normal interception?
I believe it was a normal interception.
Okay. UCF normal interception. Very next play, UCF's offense comes out onto the field. Very next play, Dylan Gabriel throws it directly to a linebacker from Louisville. Interception. Louisville returns it for a pick 6, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
Because that happened at the very end of the game. Like, that was a game-winning pick 6, like, with under a minute to play.
It's funny. I saw like a probability chart.
Yes, it was. If you were watching it, because I was watching this game, I was talking to my sister, and I stopped talking to her because I was like,
Wait, what?
That is literally the exact same play. 2 plays in a row, just for each team. But one of them scored a touchdown off of it to win. Really good game. Louisville 42, UCF 35. We both picked UCF to win this game, so we both lose points. Malik Cunningham had a great game, but I mean, he is basically Louisville's entire team. No offense to them, but, you know, if you watch them play Ole Miss, it's very obvious that they need him to be amazing, like every week.
Yeah.
You had
Okay.
UCF 38-27. I had them 34-27, so we both lost a point here. Also, Dylan, big impact from this game. Dylan Gabriel, broken clavicle, out for the year,
You.
which I believe you mentioned that at the top of the show.
Yeah, that's gonna affect him a lot. Granted, you and me didn't think he was as good as people thought, but still having a guy there for 3 years who can throw it, who could sling it, it's a big loss. Big
Yeah.
loss. So yeah, the next game, too. Fresno State UCF. Uka.
Oh, what did Katie have? Oh, she didn't have a pick for that game.
She did. She had Fresno.
No, for UCF.
Oh no. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. She had Fresno.
Okay.
Yeah, low key, Katie kind of killing it too.
Yeah, she had a good week. So Fresno State UCLA. This is the Pac-12 After Dark game, so a lot of people didn't see it. Easily the game of the week.
Oh, sorry.
Without a doubt, the game of the week. We're talking excellent quarterback play, a lot of offense, lead changes, down to the wire. Two lead changes with under a minute to play. And not like, big plays. It's like, no, like driving the length of the field. Man. So, hand up. When we talked about Fresno State, Oregon, I know I did not give Fresno State the credit they deserved. I don't know about you. I don't know if you remember your comments on that game.
No, I did not either.
But that was much more of a Oregon played down to their level, and they should be concerned about Ohio State. We now know, it's very obvious, Fresno State's good. They are very good. Jake Haener, who was at Washington, and Washington's probably really wishing they still had him. I mean, that guy.
Yeah,
Because I don't know if he got a hip pointer or just like a really bad stinger or a dead leg or whatever it was. It wasn't a dead leg because you could very clearly feel it. But that guy, he couldn't walk. He couldn't plant with his lead foot to throw. He had to throw off his back foot using just the right side of his body for the last drive. But he's still zipping laser beams just right in there in the bucket.
if you did not see this game, seriously go please watch the highlights.
Yes, go to YouTube and look up like an extended cut for highlights. It's like 15 minutes long.
So you can see Haener just absolutely can't put weight on his left foot, so he can't plant. He is just out there all arm strength. Every throw he's making, he's in grueling pain, and yet he is putting right on the money,
right on the numbers, or like perfectly on the back shoulder. Like
it is incredible.
He threw a touchdown pass. The touchdown pass he threw to win the game. He threw a low line drive. Probably total distance of the pass was probably 20 or 25 yards, but it probably didn't get higher than 6 feet off the ground. He basically threw it at the pylon right to his receiver, and he squeezed it in a window past 2 DBs from UCLA, right to this guy, in a place where only he could catch it as he's getting hit. And oh my God, it's just he made 4 or 5 passes in that game, especially in the second half, where you just thought that is an incredibly accurate and amazing throw on Sunday,
let
alone in a college game. Like, oh my God, what a QB.
Oh,
and Fresno State, give Fresno State's defense some credit. They showed up as well, and they allowed Fresno to get out to the big lead early because they stopped UCLA on a couple fourth downs.
I will say this. Do you remember Carson Edwards versus Virginia in 2019?
Yes, I do.
This performance that we saw today mimics, to me, that performance of Carson Edwards where you had a guy put the whole team on his back and carry them farther than they probably should have gone. And I say that farther than they should have gone because, Tim, he is on the field, clearly hurt, clearly hurt, can't make a throw, but he still puts the team on his back, drives them down the field with less than a goddamn minute, and they win the game off a absolute bullet to the right.
He was 39 of 53 for 455 and 2 touchdowns.
Incredible performance. Absolutely incredible performance. Something I wish I watched live just to be like,
oh, me too.
Oh,
me too.
I wish. I can't even put words to it.
There were 34 points combined scored in the fourth quarter of this game. UCLA took the lead. UCLA took the lead with 54 seconds. Fresno State drove down the field and scored a touchdown to take the lead, and then held off UCLA to seal the win. But UCLA, the thing is, UCLA did, like, Fresno State is very good. This was not, UCLA played badly. UCLA played a good game. Dorian Thompson Robinson was 14 of 24 for 280 and 3 touchdowns. UCLA ran for 120 yards. They forced turnover. Each team forced turnovers. There weren't a ton of punts. There were 7 punts between the two. Fresno punted 3 times. UCLA punted 4 times. Like, very, very even game. But this is much more about Fresno State. Is like they're very much for real. And I was listening to one of the ESPN college football podcasts that I was listening to Herb Street talk about it, and he said, "Who's the guy who does the Aflac trivia question? He does all the stats for game day. You know, the guy with the glasses, the bald guy with the glasses."
There.
Yes. So I was listening to ESPN, one of their college football show podcasts that Herb Street does, and he said that guy had sent a message into their chat for like the game day stuff saying Fresno State is better than Cincinnati, and they're the best Group of 5 team. And I will say this now. I agree with that. I think Fresno State is better than Cincinnati. They have a better quarterback. They have a better offense. Cincinnati probably has a better defense. But
not probably, Tim. Not probably.
No, they definitely do. They definitely do. But here's the thing. You have Fresno State losing at Oregon by a touchdown when they had the ball with a chance to drive to win. Then they win a thriller like this. Haener plays that well while he's hurt for the last 2 drives, and they pull out a win at UCLA, who's good. And you look at that and you think, but then you watch Cincinnati be very uninspired for a large stretch of the first half against Indiana, and then after halftime they really turned it on, especially in the fourth quarter. They really turned it on. but there were large parts of that game where it looked like Indiana had it, and Cincinnati was not necessarily the most convincing team in the world.
It's an interesting argument. So I will give you this. Fresno State's body of work so far is better than Cincinnati's, even with one loss.
It is. Cincinnati has the advantage of playing better teams for the remainder of the season.
For
so
sure.
they can certainly improve their image because I mean they have a bye week and then they play Notre Dame. It's also an interesting stat. I didn't know this, but this is also not something you'd think would be common. It's something like the next 5 teams Notre Dame plays, every single one of them has a bye the week before they play, or the week before they play Notre Dame. Somebody mentioned that as a throwaway thing, and I wasn't sure I'd ever heard of that, like purely coincidental. But I was like, oh, that's actually that's actually very interesting.
The odds of that happening are just like, whoa.
Really low. Cincinnati has a bye week and then they play Notre Dame. So if you're Cincinnati, you're really hoping that they get their ducks in a row and they don't open the game the same way they did against Indiana. But yeah, no. It just Fresno State, I mean, they have played 4 games and Jake Haener has 1,464 passing yards. Just drink that one in. Like, that's insane. Especially because we were just talking about how prolific Ole Miss's offense is, and Matt Corral's like barely at 1,000, if that.
But Fresno has already played an extra game compared to the rest of the...
That's true. They had played 4.
But still.
That's still insane.
They be hucking it over there, Tim. They be hucking it.
But anyway, I had Fresno State winning this game. We both came close on margin, and also scoreline. You had UCLA 42-38. I had Fresno State 41-34. So you lose a point. I gained 2. We both had pretty solid weeks.
Yeah. We have I'm no longer in the negative. So I netted 11 points this week. You netted also 11 points this week. Katie got 13. And remember, Katie
she didn't pick any upsets. She's lame.
Yeah, but she got 13 points, Tim.
Yeah, because she did it. She did it the smart way, and she didn't pick Kent State to beat Iowa or Buffalo to win.
Hey, that's you, man. That's on you.
Well, I didn't pick Buffalo to win, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just, Tim, I feel like since we got 10 games last week, I feel like let's just get a solid low number this week. All right.
That's good with me.
All right. So I think obviously the first game we're gonna do is Notre Dame, Wisconsin. Who you picking? Why?
I cannot, in good faith, pick Wisconsin to win this game when I've said nothing kind about them.
You have not. That is a fact.
I'm going to pick Notre Dame. I think it's going to be really low scoring. I'm going to take Notre Dame 23, Wisconsin 17.
Okay.
Notre Dame's defense played a good game against Purdue. First good showing of the year for them. Kyle Hamilton had an amazing game. He had another interception. Great in run support. Just an amazing
I guess
game.
there's a reason he's a top 5 draft.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things where he's coming out of the second or third level of the defense and he's getting a tackle for loss on like a toss right, which is, I will remind you, the opposite's going away from his side of the field. And
yeah, but seriously, it's built in 3 straight games. It'd be interesting to versus better teams.
Not the Purdue game. The defense as a whole played very well. The offense was very suspect. But again, like, you have a receiver, the ball hits his right between his face mask and like his hand, like it literally hits him like center mass in the end zone, and he just drops it. And then Cone, your quarterback, just overthrows a wide open receiver on a deep ball. It's like Notre Dame they just seem to like to leave points on the field this year, so they're not going to score a lot against Wisconsin because Wisconsin has the best defense they will have seen so far. They won't have the best individual defensive player because Karlaftis from Purdue, that guy's a monster. I don't know if you've watched him play this year.
But yeah, he destroyed Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's a monster. I'm curious how much Tyler Buckner's going to get in because Jack Cohn quite literally cannot move. Like you'd think his feet were stuck in cement. He takes a lot of sacks, which bothers me a lot because he's a good passer, but he really cannot move. And Buckner is fast, and he's a lot more decisive about staying in the pocket or getting out of it. They haven't let him throw a lot, so it's like, we'll see. So we'll see if he gets in at all and they let him kind of sling it. He threw a 60-yard touchdown pass against Toledo, and then they took him out. they've been doing that. They've been jumbling it back and forth. And I don't love that because if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. Even if they say Cohn's the starter, it's like, well, you're taking him out for a lot of things. So, but on the flip side, Wisconsin's offense has not been very convincing either. So it feels like it's going to be a lot of defense. But I think this could be this is the game which I would argue sets the tone for the rest of the season for whoever wins. Where if you're Notre Dame and you win this game, it's like, okay, it's like you lock in, you beat Wisconsin and in a neutral site game, and this is where your season really starts. Same for Wisconsin. Like if Wisconsin wants to like get everything together and like really make a push to like figure themselves out and like win the West, that starts with this game because they're not going to play a better team in the West. The only team that they're going to play who's of this quality that's in the West is Iowa. So if Wisconsin wants any chance to win the West, they have to win this game, at least to me. Because if they can't beat Notre Dame, then I don't think they can beat Iowa. And that means they might then struggle with other teams. But anyway, 23-17, low scoring. A lot of defense.
All right, I have 2017 Notre Dame. Next game, we have at 2:30, Texas A&M versus Arkansas.
I'll take Texas A&M 27-20. That's all I got. What do you?
Yeah, I don't know.
I was gonna say, what do you think?
I think, A&M seriously struggled with Colorado, and that is in the back of my mind, and that's always going to be in the back of my mind. Is like Colorado is not a good football team.
No, they're not.
They got absolutely boat raced, but at the same time, do we truly know how good Arkansas is? No, we don't.
All we have is the Texas game.
Yeah, and how good is Texas?
We don't know.
You know?
We don't know.
I'm in two minds about this, Tim. I'm in two minds. I think I'm going to go A&M. I'm going to go like A&M 24-23.
Okay. So we both have it close.
Yeah, wins it at the very end. And then the last game I picked, because we decided to do Notre Dame, Wisconsin, I figured we'd get the other team in there. Nebraska, Michigan State. Granted, there is no really other like stellar game this week. Week 4 is kind of weak in like overall quality of games.
Maybe UCLA, Stanford, or Clemson, NC State. But yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, those were the other ones. So I was just like, oh, let's just pick one that's closer to home.
I suppose one of those could be your wild card game if you want to do one of those.
I'm okay with just sticking with 3 this week.
That's fine with me. It's fine with me.
Just seeing how it goes. Who you got?
Okay, so this game is interesting because I mentioned this earlier, and I think you agreed with it. If the Nebraska team that shows up in Lansing is the same team that just played Oklahoma, I would argue this game is a toss-up. But that because that means you have the best of Adrian Martinez and the best of the Nebraska defense. And those two things means that this will be like Nebraska playing at the level they are supposed to be able to play at. They don't normally do it, but they're capable of it. On the other side, I mean, through 3 straight games, who's really dominated like Michigan State? Not really anybody. Their running back, Kenneth Walker.
So good.
Man.
Give that. He's so good.
He is so good. They got a quarterback who can throw it pretty well.
He doesn't turn it over. That's
the big thing. And the Michigan State teams that have been good in the last 10 years, the common denominator is they have a quarterback that can throw and doesn't turn it over. The teams that have been bad have QBs that are bad passers and they just make way too many mistakes. Because Michigan State generally, for the most part, they always have that very stout defense. But their success depends on whether or not they have the offense to go along with it. I'm into the line is Michigan State by 5. Over-under's 51.5. Also should have mentioned the line for the Wisconsin Notre Dame game is Wisconsin 5.5. But no, it's Michigan State -5. But Michigan State's also, since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, Michigan State is the one team. They're the one team in the Big Ten where Nebraska just has their number. And it doesn't matter whether they're better than us or not. Nebraska seems to beat them frequently because we've beaten them in years where they were much better than us.
Well, the year they went to the playoff, Nebraska and Alabama are the only 2 to beat them.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong. We beat them, was that 24-6 in Lincoln?
Mm-mm. It was the one where.
Yeah. Sorry. That was 2 years before that. That was the. Yeah.
Pushed out of bounds. or went out of bounds on his own. They didn't call a penalty, which it probably was
It
a
was
penalty.
definitely a
What?
penalty.
It was. Yeah. Let me correct that. It was a penalty.
Yeah, because that was the Mike Riley I deserve to coach this team game, and then he got fired after it.
No, he got fired the next
The
year.
next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, was that?
I thought so.
Oh, that's a good point. Because they went like 8-4 the previous year, and they had a bad record. But I think you're right.
We went 5-7 that year.
You did get fired, yeah.
And after that, because the Michigan State game was senior day, because it was a night game. Yeah, and that was the I can lead this team forward, like in his post game interview or whatever. It's the whole I think I should be the guy who keeps coaching here, blah blah blah. Then he got canned after because we lost to I don't know. I think I don't want to pick Nebraska, but I do.
Then don't.
You make your pick. You make your pick.
Pick who you think's gonna win.
That's the thing.
Also,
I don't know.
Just to give you guys a reference of Kenneth Walker III, who we mentioned earlier and how good he is, Peyton Thorne, the quarterback for Michigan State, has 726 yards throwing the ball. Kenneth Walker has 493 rushing. He's averaging 8.6 yards a game and 5 touchdowns. So I just wanted to give you that reference, that the fact that Kenneth Walker is almost gaining as many yards as Peyton Thorne is throwing. And to do that, that is insanely hard. But I will say this. Michigan hasn't played really anyone this year. Northwestern, who just lost to Duke, who Duke is a very bad football team. Let's not get it twisted. They are not a good football team. ESPN with your goddamn ass.
They get you again.
There's nothing even playing. That's the stupid thing.
2 pizzas, wings, breadsticks. It's the easy way to feed the whole family. And
is that a Pizza Hut commercial?
Did you hear me, Gary? This saves time.
Yeah. I just don't think I can do.
The big dinner box.
No one outpizzas the Hut, Jared.
Thank you, man. Thank you for that inspiration.
You should just leave that in. You really should.
No free advertisement. No free advertisement. We need to get paid for it.
No, but Pizza Hut can sponsor the pod.
Yeah, dude. Pizza, what's up? How you doing? Duke lost to Charlotte, and then they beat Northwestern. Michigan State then beat Northwestern in return. So Northwestern isn't good this year, or they're not as good as they have been in the past. 2, Miami is one drive away from being an 0-3 team. Miami's going to struggle to maybe get 6 wins this year.
That's true.
And it was a close game for 3 quarters. What I will say in Nebraska's favor is, yes, Nebraska did lose to Illinois, but the last 3 games they have played is some of the best football I have seen in a 3-game period under Scott Frost. They've only allowed 31 total points this year on defense. And guess what? 7 of those 31 is because they returned a fumble, or Illinois returned a fumble on defense. So they only get 24 points in 4 games.
Is it only 24?
Or in their last 3, sorry. In their last 3, they gave up 31 points. No, that's not correct, is it? God, did Twitter lie to me?
33.
Okay, so in their last 3 games, they've only given up 33 points. And you're coming off a stellar performance in Norman, a game that you probably should have won. Nebraska is down by all regards. They are the underdog again, but I do believe Nebraska is going to come out victorious, 30-27. And that does mean we're going to Nebraska's going to kick field goals.
that means we have to kick 3.
Have faith, baby.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
They'll get it figured out.
Yeah.
Also, Adrian Martinez is playing extremely well. And if he plays this well like he has the last 3 weeks, and with Betts, Omar Manning, and Toure, this is the best wide receiver corps Nebraska's had under Scott Frost. And the worst part of Michigan State's defense is passing. I believe they are rated 103rd in the country, that unit. I think Nebraska could have a big game through the air. So I'm going Nebraska, even though I did, 30-27. We'll stick with that. I believe field goal kicking will get ironed out, hopefully. Knock on wood. All right. Tim, back to you.
I'm going to take Nebraska.
Oh, interesting.
Because Nebraska's going to have the best defense Michigan State's played all year.
True.
But that's because Miami sucks. Which
That
again,
is also
again, who called that? Certainly not us. Would never be us.
no, never,
Never.
ever.
I'll take Nebraska 34 to 28. No,
Ooh,
30.
34 to 30. You officially locking that in.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, Tim. Wow.
What did you say?
30 to 27. Are you predicting a missed extra point by Nebraska?
No, I was
To get
thinking 2 field goals, but it could very well be a missed extra point. But I'm
Well, there you
thinking 30 because Michigan State will have 24. They'll score, go for 2 to get to 32. So then a field goal would win it for them, but they won't get it.
Okay.
So then they're stuck at 30, and then they'll think they should have just kicked the extra point.
I like it. Thought out completely. So, yeah, we kept it short this week because why not?
Yes.
Essentially, there weren't that many games. But yeah, I think that does it.
Yes, it does.
So yeah.
No one out pizzas the hut.
If you liked this episode, please give us a follow or subscription on whatever platform you are on. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please contact us at our email given in the description of each episode below. Take care and have a blessed day.